and gentlemen, time for another episode of Reading the Constitution. Today is Friday, April 5th, 2019, and today's episode is about Article 1, Section 3, Senate. Okay, so where we left off last time, see if I can find that here. We were talking about Article 1, which is about the legislative branch, and we'd actually covered, there's 10 sections in it, and we'd covered all 10 sections except for Section 3. So this is the last section in Article 1. And then this one talks about the Senate, and it talks about the term and the composition of the Senate and who's eligible, the number of senators, trying impeachments, etc. So anyway, let's take a look at it in the real Constitution. Here's the original Constitution. You can see Article 1 there, and I think Section 3 is there. There's the rest of Article number 1. And I'll just take a look at this other view of it here. And you can see Article 1, Section 2. Under Section 3, in about the middle of the page, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 clauses. The biggest one is clause number 2. So we'll go and start taking a look at that now. So here's Article 1, Section 3, an overview. And I've just given a little blurb about what each clause is. So 3.1, it's about who chooses senators, that there's an unlimited number of 6-year terms, the number of votes per senator. Clause 3.2 says that the terms are staggered and how they fill vacancies. 3.3 has to do with the eligibility requirements for senators, and there's 3 of them. 3.4 says that the vice president is president of the Senate and casts a tie-breaking vote. 3.5 has to do with choosing officers and a president pro tempore. 3.6 gives the power to try impeachments to the Senate. And the Chief Justice presides and 2/3 are necessary to convict. And 3.7 says that when they convict during an impeachment, the officer is only removed from office, but he's still subject to law. Okay, so let's just do these one at a time and read the actual words. So Section 3.1 is who chooses senators and the terms. I'll read it here. It says, the Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state, chosen by the legislature thereof for 6 years, and each senator shall have 1 vote. Now, if you notice there, I've got the one part in brackets there, chosen by the legislature. That was modified by the 17th Amendment in 1913. So they used to be chosen by the legislature. That's who chooses senators. But now they're elected by the people. And there's 2 senators from each state. And their term is 6 years. And each senator has 1 vote. And it is an unlimited number of terms. There's no term limits on senators. Okay, the next section here, 3.2. It says to do with the terms are staggered. And there's a big, long explanation of how this works, but it's really not that complicated. But I'll read it here. It says, immediately after they shall be assembled in consequence of the first election, they shall be divided as equally as many into 3 classes. The seats of the senators of the first class shall be vacated at the expiration of the 2nd year, of the 2nd class at the expiration of the 4th year, and the 3rd class at the expiration of the 6th year, so that 1/3 may be chosen every 2nd year. And if vacancies happen by resignation or otherwise, during the recess of the legislature of any state, the executive thereof may make temporary appointments until the next meeting of the legislature, which shall then fill such vacancies. So that's a lot of words there, but it basically just says they serve for 6 years, and the terms are staggered. So like 1/3 of them will come up for election every 2nd year. And remember, the original, there were 13 colonies, so that would be 26 senators in the original Congress. And you notice that one part there at the very end says, and if vacancies happen, it's in brackets. And that's because it was modified by the 17th Amendment in 1913. So I think what happens now is if there's a vacancy, I think the governor of the state will appoint a temporary senator, and then they have an election. Okay, let's go to Section 3.3. This is the eligibility requirements for senators. And the words say, no person shall be a senator who shall not have attained to the age of 30 years and been 9 years a citizen of the United States and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state for which he shall be chosen. So basically 3 requirements. He has to be at least 30 years old. He has to be a U.S. citizen for 9 years. And he has to be an inhabitant of the state that he's becoming a senator for. And so you notice he doesn't have to be a naturally born citizen, a native citizen. He could have been an immigrant and then got his naturalized citizenship and could be a senator. Okay, next part here, 3.4. It says that, I'll just read the words. It says, the Vice President of the United States shall be President of the Senate, but shall have no vote unless they be equally divided. So you can see that, in the original Senate, they had 26 members. So if they had an election, if they were voting on some bill, and there was a 13-13, he could cast a tie-breaking vote. And that's the Vice President. And it's kind of interesting because the Vice President, he's really part of the executive branch, but he does have has his job here in the legislative branch also. Section 3.5, choose officers and President pro tempore. The Senate shall choose their other officers, other besides the Vice President, the President of the Senate, and also President pro tempore in the absence of the Vice President or when he shall exercise the office of President of the United States. So basically they can choose other officers and a President pro tempore, which basically means pro tempore means temporarily, for temporary, or for a time. So if the Vice President is not present, the President pro tempore acts as the President, or if the President of the United States should die and the Vice President becomes the President, then the President pro tempore becomes the President of the Senate. Okay, moving on to section 3.6. We're getting right down to the end here. This has to do with impeachments. And it says, the Senate shall have the sole power to try all impeachments. When sitting for that purpose, they shall be on oath or affirmation. When the President of the United States is tried, the Chief Justice shall preside, and no person shall be convicted without the concurrence of 2/3 of the members present. So this clause gives them the power to convict the President or any officer on impeachment. And it says specifically that when the President's impeached and being tried, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court is the presides over it. But for other people, it doesn't have to be the Chief Justice. It could be someone else. Okay, so let's do the very last one here. And this also has to do with impeachments. And I'll read the words here. It says, judgment in the cases of impeachment shall not extend further than to removal from office and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States. But the party convicted shall nevertheless be liable and subject to indictment, trial, judgment, and punishment according to the law. So there you see that if they convict someone of, remember they're being tried for treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. If they're actually found guilty and convicted, the only punishment that the Senate can mete out is to remove from office and disqualify from holding any other office in the United States government. But he's not free there, though, because he can still be tried if he committed a crime that's either a criminal or a civil crime or something. He can still be subject to the law, which might be becoming put up on trial and judged, and even get sent to jail or even executed. And you remember that there was a president who was impeached but was not tried, and that was President Nixon. And when he resigned from office, the new president, Gerald Ford, pardoned him, which is the right that the president has to do, so that he wouldn't be tried in a civil trial or whatever, in criminal trial. Okay, so that's basically that's all the parts about the senator here, 7 clauses. And with that, we've actually finished the legislative branch. And let me just take a look here, see what else we have to do. Look at the whole Constitution. We've actually covered everything except in Article 2, there's parts of Section 1 that we haven't looked at yet. So we'll go and look at that next.